All right, Erica, you're going to be asking me questions, but I'm going to frame what this video is about for anybody that's watching this or has landed into this video or has read this story. We're going to be talking about why 1851franchise.com added the supplier database to our infrastructure, which is a new tool, fairly new tool, and what it means for franchisors and for franchise suppliers as it relates back to our why. So it's a conversation, but Erica, you can take the lead, ask me anything, and then we'll see where this goes.
Awesome. I mean, yeah, I was just going to start with the bare bones, the basics. So could you give a little information about what can we find in the supplier database?
Yeah. So I'm gonna answer that in two ways. One is how we got to building out this database, because I think it sets things up nicely. In franchising, unfortunately, it's very much pay to play. So, and in 1851's history, there's usually some sort of trigger that creates a frustration by the visionary, me. And I say, how can we do this better? So in pay for play, what that means is that the suppliers that pay the most amount of money are the ones that get shown, or in franchise politics, you might get shown more at a conference or an event or be given a speaking engagement because of who you know, not necessarily what you can do. And so that's where we start from, of how can we build a transparent database that is really built by public facing reviews. So there's an outlet in particular that does supplier rankings, will not disclose how the rankings are created. And if you really look at how and who is ranked, there's, for someone that is quite educated on franchise, they would say, well, that's really not the best franchise attorney, or that's not really the best franchise marketing company. And so we thought, let's just build it based on the number of reviews. And it's going to be very hard to get a 4-star review. Maybe there'll be a 4-star review, but it's really like, who are your validators and why do they validate you? Like who gives a thumbs up, which at some point we might turn to thumbs up. So for a franchisor now, you land on the database and you're going to just start clicking through and finding your service. So just to make this even easier, and I know your question was very simple and I'm adding all these words, but if I go like this and add this on here, this is our supplier database. And so the easiest way to navigate to it is you just click franchise resources and you come on here. If you're a franchisor, you can claim your profile. But let's just say you are looking for an accounting firm, because that's the first one. And we're going to go ahead and search for it. And you can organize these by most reviews, highest reviews, or alphabetically, which is the default. And now it just gives you a digest of all the accounting firms that we can find in franchising. So if you're looking for one, you can kind of pencil through this and then say, okay, let's look at this one, KPMG. And maybe if there's a little bit of information on the supplier, it'll guide you. If not, if we haven't done a deep dive on them, it's very basic, or if they haven't claimed their profile. But here, the idea was like, how can I easily find who are the suppliers in the category? Should I be looking for some sort of service? So that's the basic side of what you get, and really the starting point of why we created this.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I feel like that's kind of coming from the perspective of someone searching for a supplier or looking into different suppliers, but it also seems like it would be mutually beneficial to the suppliers as well. So yeah, how does it benefit suppliers that are included?
Yeah, so one, it costs nothing. Part of what we're trying to do with 1851 is there are certainly paid aspects of the platform that if you choose to use it for content marketing and you build out your own brand page, you can use it as an additional tool. But here it was like, could we give the industry a profile so that they can have some sort of landing page that can be found through search engines, so that when someone's doing their due diligence on you or trying to get educated of what you do, there's some sort of noise away from your website. Franchisors have a ton of press and everything, every type of buzz that can be built on a brand, but a supplier doesn't really have those resources. They really have their website, they have their social media, maybe PR if they're active in that category, maybe a little bit of external content, but we thought this would give the supplier another tool to be able to tell what their story is. And us as a business, we do Meet the Supplier videos where we interview the supplier on who they are, what they do, and what problems they solve. And so if we had a place where we can actually promote those videos for them, then we could give an asset back to a franchise supplier too.
Awesome. Do you have any sort of top tips or advice on how people should be using this database?
It's early, but really, this would be to anybody that's looking for a supplier solution. Start your search off, and this is primarily on franchisor advice first. Start your search off as a broad stroke. Find, I would say, somewhere between 3 and 5 that seem to align with what you're looking for from a business structure or solution standpoint, and perception on their culture. Does it align? Do their pretty pictures make you feel excited about the business? After you've narrowed it to 5, then take it down to 3, and that's probably the 3 that you want to put into discussion, which means you leave 1851, you go onto their website, you fill out their form, you engage in a conversation, you tell them what your scope is, and you get a response back. So that's from a franchisor looking for the process. From a supplier standpoint, it's a great networking opportunity because a lot of franchisors end up with a franchise supplier because of some sort of referral that comes from another supplier. So this gives you a good toolkit to find some of those additional suppliers. There are things that we'll continue to add into these supplier pages, like LinkedIn connections and all these other bells and whistles that will help you on that guideline too. But it's really an inventory. It's like if you land on the MLS to find a house for sale, you can see all the houses for sale in the market. This is kind of that same mentality of, it doesn't cost you anything to go on Zillow or Redfin and find a house. It only costs you if you buy a house. Here, it's kind of the same thing. Like, could we build out a fairly robust list of franchise suppliers so that you can figure out which ones are make the most sense for you to work with?
Yeah, I like that analogy with Zillow and Redfin. Well, that's great. I mean, is there anything else you want to share that you think people need to know that we haven't?
Yeah. The last thing I'll say is, again, like we're building this on transparency. And so as a supplier, you want to get your reviews in there, so that get your validators to leave a review. It's very simple. You just click leave a review, you type in something, we get it on the back end, and we push approve. We created the approval process, which, for full transparency, we did that just in case someone leaves a bad review, so that we can send it over to the supplier and say, here's your chance to make it right before we would publish it. It doesn't mean we're not going to publish it. It just means make it right and see if that solves whatever issue is present. But again, like the word transparency is at the top, and then accessibility of listing of franchisors or franchise suppliers is the second idea. And this was a way for us to really integrate the supplier side into the 1851 community, which we're trying to give as much visibility into the community as possible. And we're super proud of launching yet another tool that, again, it's at the starting point, but long-term could have tremendous impact back to franchisors that are looking for support, and for suppliers just trying to get a little bit more buzz on their brand.
Yeah, sounds like a great resource. Well, thank you for informing us.
There it is. That's the details. If you watch this, hopefully you got something out of it. And if you're a franchisor, leave reviews. If you're a franchise supplier, click claim your profile. And you can click claim your profile even if you're not listed, so that we can get you on the site. Take care.